Let me introduce Emily Burnett. She's an environmental specialist at North Carolina DEQ. She has a Bachelor's of Science from Kennesaw State University and a Master's of Science in Environmental Policy from Bard College. And she is responsible for recycling and materials management at the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality. So please join me in welcoming Emily.
Hi, so my presentation is going to be pretty brief. I'm going to be talking about recycling, public college recycling in North Carolina. So this is a pretty low-level question, but why recycle? Most of us here know. It conserves our raw materials, it cuts down on energy use, it's good for the environment, and it will help our environment to stay around longer. So I'm mostly talking today about the 2017-18 annual report that we send out to all public colleges in the state. It is voluntary, so this year we had 49 participating schools. That's down 3 schools from last year, so thank you to everyone who did send that in. It's greatly appreciated. So it's a yearly recycling report, and this year we managed to capture 54,000 tons of waste throughout the college system. So of those tons managed, we see that around 34,000 were to landfill, about 9,500 traditional recyclables were recovered, and about 10,500 other recyclables, tons of recyclables were recovered, and then we had a small amount of donated goods. And so in comparison to last year, there is not much change despite slower recycling markets. So and if we were to look back even one more year, it stays pretty much the same. It's actually kind of crazy how close the traditional recyclables that were captured are from year to year. So when I talk about slower recycling markets, many of you may know about this, but to just briefly go over what happened with China and the Green Sword. So in 2017, China announced efforts to clean up the country, and they reported to the World Trade Organization that they were going to be banning unprocessed plastic starting in January of 2018, as well as mixed paper. And then other recovered paper and plastic could not exceed a 0.5% contamination rate, which if you deal in recyclables, you would know is practically impossible. And other Southeast Asian countries, including like Malaysia, India, followed suit with their own different bans and different contamination rates that they would no longer accept. So going back to college traditional recovery, it looked like we had around, like I said, 9,500 tons of bottles, cans, and fiber. And these are collected in different ways throughout the different schools. So around 57% of the schools are using single stream, which we see has a much higher contamination rate, but you do get the most material. Then some schools, 27%, were using dual stream, and that's where you're collecting your paper in one and then like your bottles, tubs, jugs, jars in another. And then around 12% had source separated, and that's where you're having 4 different bins and you're collecting each type of material in a different bin. So then 4% had a combo where they might be doing single stream throughout some of campus and then dual stream throughout some. And so here we have the non-traditional materials. So we find that the best recycling programs, you're also capturing these other materials, including like hazardous waste, pellets, drywall, different things like that, as well as your traditional recyclables. And so there was around 10,500 tons of that recycled throughout the colleges. So with recycling in public spaces, we always like to tell people to twin the bin. So you want to give people the option to either use a recycling bin or a waste bin. Otherwise, you're going to get a much higher contamination rate, because even if you have a lone recycling bin, if that's the only thing around, they're going to put everything in there. And so recycling education is a very important tool. We found that signage is the most effective tool. You're going to want to use less words, more pictures. And then the campus green teams, many of those, many schools have those, and then waste audits where you're actually looking at what is going into your different bins. And sometimes having students help with that is great, and getting them involved, as with the campus green teams. So this is the kind of signage that we would like to see. And using, you don't always have to use this type of image. If you wanted to use a more real looking image to help, that's fine. But we want to get down to the basics of what these material recovery facilities truly want these days. We want plastic, we want metal, we want glass, and we want paper. And then you want to have clearly demarcated, keep these out. And telling them what you don't want in the bin. And so also with composting, we know that you can greatly improve your diversion rate when you add composting, as many of the schools have throughout North Carolina. So through that, you're going to just be able to get either a SUL amendment or you're going to get renewable energy. There's no reason to be throwing that great resource into the trash to go to the landfill. And so with organics recovery in the schools, we saw that there was 3,192 tons of food waste that was composted, while there was 16 tons of excess food donated. And we have several schools throughout the state, that, including App State, that are using on-site aerated static pile. And here in this picture, we're showing what NC State does, and they have 3 different, the little, like some of the bins fit onto the bigger recycling bin on the side. So that's a really great system that kind of has it all in one place and helps students make the right decision. And so what we're doing right now, which I talked about in our zero waste group more in depth, but we're doing a Recycle Right NC campaign, and it's a statewide anti-contamination campaign. It's 10 weeks, and it's focusing on getting people to recycle right, not more, which was our slogan before. And now we've realized that contamination is really the largest problem that we're facing. So through this campaign, which is mostly geared towards local governments, we're going to have social media posts talking about getting cart smart, knowing your nose, demystifying recycling, and kind of helping people. I know there's been things that have said people find recycling more confusing than doing their taxes. So we're trying to really help people to understand it and understand why, not just don't put this in here, but don't put this in here because when it goes to this material recovery facility, there's someone, Jenny or Johnny, that's got to deal with that. So, when in doubt, throw it out. And so we're going to be having our different signage, like I showed you before with the guideline signage. We've made that exact print for every MRF throughout the state that we have available. And then also we're willing, if your program has something extra or you're accepting something more, we can easily change that up and get that to you for free. And then we're going to be having press releases to try to combat the bad news around recycling that I'm sure everyone's heard, that it's dying, that it's all going to landfill, different things like that, to get people back being excited about recycling and believing in it. And then we're also going to have recycling handouts that tell people how to speak to elected officials about things like defending glass and keeping glass in the stream, and also just how to talk to their elected officials who might want to be cutting recycling altogether. So all of that is going to begin on September 9th and culminate on America Recycles Day on November 15th. And we've already had several colleges sign on, and we would love to have more. So, yeah, that's pretty much it for me. And if you have any questions, feel free to shoot me an email. And please fill out those lovely reports so that we can get the best numbers that are possible and the most accurate. Thank you.